Well, hi, everybody. I am Matthew Tesdahl, owner of Family Time Vacation Rentals, and also on the executive board of directors for VRNation. Super excited today. This is going to be amazing with Eduardo from AngelHost. We're going to go over this for the next 30, 35, 40 minutes, something like that. Getting impart a lot of wisdom on us. And Eduardo, first of all, thank you for being here. I really appreciate you doing this.
Thank you, Matt. It's a pleasure.
I want to introduce Eduardo. He is the CEO and co-founder of AngelHost. Been in this space, specifically in the STR short-term rental space, for 7 years, going on a decade, which is amazing. Congratulations on that, Eduardo. They manage over 2,000 listings, all in North America, some stuff in not Central, but South America and Europe. So has a vast amount of experience in managing vacation rental properties from a revenue management perspective. So I want to just step off 1 second from this, Eduardo, because Dirk Johnson in our last webinar did something I thought was really cool when he asked us questions about travel and that kind of stuff. And he has so many good hot buttons, and he's an amazing person. I love road trips, Eduardo. So I hope you like them, but if you don't, you're gonna have to wing it. What is one of your favorite road trips you've done or you want to do?
Actually, one of my favorite road trips was last time I was in Vegas. I actually was lucky enough to be able to rent a very nice convertible and went to Red Rock Canyon and then went to Reno, and we basically visited the whole area. So that was a lot of fun.
Red Rock Canyon is amazing. We're from Vegas originally, my wife and I and our kids. We lived about 10 miles or less than that from Red Rock, the Red Rock Loop there.
Oh,
And what an amazing area. So that's a great road trip.
it is.
So,
It is. I had a bit of a sunburn towards the end, but it was really, really fun.
as you should in a convertible.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, we'll get started. You want to go to the next slide?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me move this over. Yeah.
So just a little bit about VRNation, and our mission is really we're about evaluating the industry standards and helping with professionalism, transparency, and ethical practices. I mean, basically, VRNation was built by property managers for property managers. And we partner with our amazing vendors that are in this space, such as AngelHost here. And in doing these webinar and local meetups and all these different kind of things that we do, where this is something that is a passion of mine and the board and all of VRNation. So we're super excited to bring this to you. And this goes along with our vision and our focus. And from here on, I want to turn it over to Eduardo so you can impart all this wisdom onto us.
Awesome. Well, I'll do my best, Matt. I hope that's the goal here, to share as much information with you guys as possible. And today's topic is something that we're very passionate about. We love talking about it. It's about the OTA algorithms, right? The Airbnb algorithms, the Booking.com algorithms, Vrbo algorithms. How do they work, right? Because ultimately, if we understand them, we can actually produce better revenue. So in today's agenda, I just want to give you a very brief introduction of who's AngelHost. I'm not trying to sell you anything, but I just want to put in context where we are getting all this information from. We're going to spend about 30 minutes sharing with you as much information as we can. And we always like to leave some time towards the end for a Q&A session. Please feel free to ask any and every single question that comes to mind. So with that said, like Matt mentioned, we've been in business since 2018. We're based in Montreal, but our operations are pretty much worldwide. The US is a very important market for us. It accounts for about 50-60% of our business. And we basically help property management companies and hosts optimize their listings and take care of their pricing strategies. So think of us as a SaaS managed type of company. We have the technology, but we also manage it for you. And we basically help our clients have better rankings, higher conversions, and more bookings. So we've been studying this whole thing about the algorithm and what makes a listing click, what makes a listing get conversions for many years now. And the methodology that I'm going to share with you has helped us. We do increase sales quite substantially. The same methodology applies to every country that we operate. So it's not that the methodology is exclusive to the US or to Canada or to Europe. It basically holds true in every country where we operate. And like Matt mentioned, we gather this information from the more than 2,000 listings that we get to manage in 50 cities around the world. But for the purpose of the analysis that we do, we actually analyze hundreds of thousands of listings to get very meaningful data. So let's get started. At the end of the day, we all want one thing when it comes to our business, and that's to increase our sales, right? And there's a lot of talk out there about, well, if you want to increase your sales, you have to understand how the OTA platforms work. In other words, understand their algorithm. Now, here's the key question here, right? And how exactly is that algorithm programmed? I mean, if we knew what the guys from Airbnb are thinking in San Francisco, and we could get an eye on their code, well, we could crack it and we could basically reverse engineer it and start coming up with things that we tweak the listings so that we beat the algorithm. But the truth of the matter is that only they know. If there's anyone in the market out there, if you see someone on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook telling you, oh, we know exactly how the algorithms work, well, they're actually lying. No one knows. This is a close-held secret, not to mention that the algorithm is constantly changing, right? Now, so how do we understand, how do we get to know how the algorithms work? And that's through careful analysis, right? At the end of the day, I might not know what is the Python code or the PHP code or the AI that is behind what Airbnb decides to show first. But I can certainly do a lot of observation analysis and a lot of, and understand what is happening. So our analysis comes from studying, like I said, hundreds of thousands of listings, including 2,000 of our own, to understand what works and what doesn't, okay? So you have to understand something. For any given search, OTAs have thousands of listings to display. And I believe there's 18 or 19 on the homepage of Airbnb. So imagine you want to be displayed there, but you're competing against tens of thousands of other listings. So how do you make it to the first page? And what we've seen is, well, let's study the listings that make it to the first page. What's in it then? Now, before I move into this, I want to explain something that is very important for all of you to understand. And that is, at the end of the day, the algorithms are going to favor, of course, whatever converts better. Think about it this way. If you had a store on Fifth Avenue in New York, and you are selling clothes, and you have, thousands of clothing items that you can showcase, what would you showcase in the front window? Would you showcase something that doesn't sell or something that is likely to attract people's attention? Well, the same thing happens with Airbnb. They want to showcase things that you are likely to book. Now, of course, if you are a family of four, or you're just a couple, or you're someone single, or you're someone retired, what you are likely to book is different. So of course, in the days of AI, Airbnb and Booking.com have figured all of these things out and will present things that you are more likely to book. Now, within what you are more likely to book, they're going to show the listings that are more likely to convert, right? The ones that they're not interested in people clicking on 1,000 listings and then getting no bookings. They want the booking. They want the revenue. So what are they going to show? They're going to show things that convert better. And we have defined that there's 3 key elements that make a listing convert better. And don't take my word for it. I'm going to show you where we're getting this information from. Not surprisingly, the number one thing that will drive sales will be your ratings. It's fortunate, unfortunate, because we have all received every now and then some really bad ratings for no particular reason, being unfairly treated by some of our guests. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, it's all about the ratings, right? When we're looking to travel somewhere, If we see that the place has great ratings, we're much more likely to book it. And what's interesting is that when you start studying all of the Airbnb listings out there, and you try to understand what is their rating, well, first of all, it's interesting to see that some people tell me, hey, Eduardo, I have a 4.4 rating on my listing, or my account has a 4.3 rating. And I'm like, well, it might sound good to you, but the reality is that 94% of all Airbnb listings have a rating of 4.5 and more. And many of you must be familiar with the guest favorite badge that you can get on Airbnb. Well, I remember when it came out, a lot of people were complaining about the fact that, well, it's so difficult to get it. You need a score of 4.9 and above. Who has a score of 4.9? Well, 25% of all Airbnb listings worldwide have a review score of 4.9. So if your listings, any of your listings are under 4.5, well, you're ranking in the bottom 6% of all listings. And if you're in the club of 4.9 and over, there's actually 2 million listings that you're competing against. Now, if you're Airbnb, who are you going to display on your results? Are you going to display the ones that are guest favorites and therefore likely to convert? Or are you going to display and do a favor to someone that has a listing with a 4.3 ranking? And the answer is obvious, right? Airbnb will always give preference to listings that have higher ratings. This is a histogram that shows every line that you see here in this graph represents a listing. And this is the result of doing thousands of searches on Airbnb, doing some screen scraping, doing some data number crunching. And this is what we came up with. And it shows you that on average, for the first 100 searches, every now and then you could see 1 or 2 listings with ratings under 4.4, but the vast majority of them have a super high score, at least 4.7 and over. Matt, you have a question?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't want to bump in. I want to just ask you, on that ratings you're talking about on that previous slide, is that on a profile level, like someone like us that has multiple properties, or is that on an individual property having that?
Good question, Matt. That's at the individual property level. And don't feel bad. I can tell you that the average for property management companies worldwide is actually 4.6. Okay, that's the average for the entire account. So if you have an account that is over 4.6, you're actually doing at 4.6, you're basically in the average, right on the average. If you're at 4.7, 4.8, you're doing well. It's hard to get at an account level a 4.9, because there's so many elements that don't depend necessarily on you. Maybe the owner hasn't wanted to buy that new couch or change the pictures in the living room or whatnot. But yes, these numbers are about individual listings, not the account.
That's good to know. That helps. And is it also is it broken out by market types, for example, like beach, mountain, or does it talk about seasonality, or is it just across the board?
This is across the board. This actually comes directly from our account manager at Airbnb, and he was kind enough to share this data with us, and that's why the source here is Airbnb directly. This is across the board, not necessarily broken down. And it's a good point because some markets tend to have, on average, lower ratings. If we're looking at Orlando in Florida, you will notice that actually the ratings are slightly lower than this. If you look at markets like Puerto Rico, for whatever reason, the average ratings are slightly higher. Maybe people that go to Puerto Rico are in a better mood and they leave better rankings. I don't know. There could be so many.
They definitely get more sun than we do in the Northwest.
Absolutely. Maybe that's what happens. And yeah, and like I was saying, right? If you look at the first 100 results, not the first page, but the first 100 results, you're going to see that 70% of those listings have a rating over 4.7. Now, what happens if you just look at the first page? The first page, you will notice that actually 85% of the listings that you will see on the first page have ratings over 4.7. So we do revenue management and we tell our clients, listen, we can't perform miracles if your listing has a 4.3, 4.4 average, no matter how much revenue management we do, we can't really optimize your listing until your ratings are good. So until we have those type of ratings, we sometimes have to sacrifice pricing, right? In order to bring up those ratings. And we'll explain why sometimes lowering the price for a temporary period, for a certain period of time, does make a difference. And Matt, I know that I can see on the chat there's maybe some questions. If ever you need to interrupt me again, we can do this on the go. We don't have to wait till the end for the questions, so I'll be more than happy to. Okay.
Okay, thanks. I didn't want to just interrupt you. So
No worries, no worries. Now, just as important as ratings, all of you are also familiar with these badges. In the case of Airbnb, they're called Superhost or they're called guest favorites. And we've been always curious to know what is the effect on that on rankings, right? And again, not surprisingly, if you do a search for last minute, you're going to notice this, and you do this search over and over and over and over again, you're going to notice that 67% of all the listings that you're going to see will have either the badge of guest favorite or the badge of superhost. So this is something that we also try to, push our clients towards to get. The superhost is a little bit more difficult just because, it requires a certain number of bookings during the year and whatnot. But the guest favorite is one that is one of the most critical ones that we've seen. This is for last minute bookings. When you look at far out dates, let's say I'm trying to book something for Thanksgiving or for Christmas, you're going to notice that almost 2/3 of all listings are guest favorites. And again, it does make sense. Why would Airbnb promote something, or Booking.com, that people don't appreciate, right? In fact, if you read the latest SEC report from the quarterly reports from Airbnb is actually reporting that since they implemented the guest favorite and they favored the guest favorites, the amount of calls to their call center has decreased by about 20%, and therefore their cost of servicing those reservations has gone down. So it's obvious that Airbnb will always give preference, and same goes for Vrbo and for Booking, for things that convert well and that don't give them trouble, right?
is this monitored or adjusted quarterly or annually when they talk about guest favorites and superhost?
We are constantly rerunning this analysis, Matt, because it does change, and it does change a little bit by market, but the concept holds true across the board, right? Having that guest favorite, icon badge is not a nice to have. It almost becomes a must have. Now, I'm not saying that you're not going to get any bookings if you don't have it. Clearly, there's about 20% of the listings that show up. This green part is a very interesting one. The green part are new properties, and we'll get to that in a second. So you will still get bookings. I'm just saying you won't get as much exposure and as many bookings as you could get. And it gets even worse, right? There's no hiding. If your review score is at 4.3, 4.4, Airbnb is going to make sure that people know, hey, you're trying to book one of our worst properties out there. Now, why on earth would someone want to book this? Well, maybe it's because it's the last one available, or maybe because it's close to my parents' house and that's where I want to stay. I mean, there could be a number of reasons, and it could still get booked, but your likelihood of getting booked diminishes quite substantially. And there are no shortcuts to a good ranking. I mean, like I said, I'm a bit tired of hearing people on TikTok and whatever saying we have this secret recipe on how to rank higher. People telling me, yeah, we do all these micro changes to our listing constantly. It can work for a small period of time, but ultimately the fundamentals don't change. The fundamentals are: is your listing good? Is your listing converting? Is your listing not giving trouble to the OTAs? If that's the case, and you're well configured and you have the right pricing, and we'll get to that, you will get more bookings. Yes, Matt.
So I know that you've talked a lot about Airbnb.
Mm-hmm.
And from what you guys do, how does this impact direct bookings?
Well, direct bookings, I never see direct bookings in conflict with this, right? I mean, you can always have a good strategy to drive direct bookings. It's becoming trickier now, especially with the changes on Airbnb, that they're prohibiting you from contacting and speaking to the client outside of the platform. You can get vetoed from the platform if you do so. But I think for all of us, for all of our clients, direct bookings has to remain an important part of the mix, right? I think if you can be in the range of 15 to 20% of your reservations with direct bookings, maybe in some drive-to destinations with more repeat customers, you can get that up to 50, 60, 70% because you have the same families coming back to you every year. But I don't see any conflict between one and the other, right? I mean, if you're good on the OTAs, you're going to get more first-time clients, and then, maybe if they have a great experience, they'll reach out to you directly for the second or the third time.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Eduardo, on this, because I think some of the best thought leaders in our industry have been preaching, 50% direct bookings, 50% OTA. That's a healthy business because you get the influx of new guests that you can convert to direct bookings. And I don't know, maybe it is a destination piece rather than a fly to piece, but I agree with what you're saying.
Right. Now, keep in mind, Matt, direct bookings are not free bookings, right? Direct bookings, sometimes you have to give a discount. And if Airbnb is charging you a 3%, but you have to pay a 3% credit card fee when people book directly with you, or maybe you don't have to pay the 12% that guests pay to Airbnb, and you can reduce the rate. There's a certain cost involved in direct bookings. So I also don't want people to walk away thinking if I had 100% direct bookings, I would have no cost to it. I was at a conference not long ago I'm not sure if it was in Austin or in Florida, and someone was mentioning a company that has thousands of listings saying, we have calculated that the cost of direct booking is in the range of about a 7% commission, right? So there is a cost involved, but yes, definitely direct bookings should always be, if not the main focus, it has to be also part of the focus to maintain a healthy balance, between OTAs and a good diversification of your revenue. Now, I was mentioning that there's one exception to rankings, and that's new listings. When a listing is new, the AI from the OTAs are now starting to get smarter to know whether it will perform or not, just based on what they know. But up until recently, you can still get a bit of a boost. There's a debate in the industry whether it's 7 days or 30 days. We have seen our anecdotally, I can tell you that it's probably about 14 days where you're going to get a free boost, and they're going to show you on the first page just while they figure out whether your listing is working or not. And now I shouldn't say this to this crowd, but of course, what affects a rating, we all know it, is the cleaning, the maintenance, the response time. But there's a key one, and that's perceived value. I met not long ago a guy who has properties in Cancun, Mexico. And they call him there the king of the reviews because his account as a property manager has a review score of about 4.93 or something. And we're like, wow, how does he accomplish that? And he was telling me something very interesting. And he was saying, you know what, Eduardo, I have my high season and I have my season to get good ratings. I said, what do you mean by that? He says, well, during my low season, I lower my prices so much that when people show up at my properties, they are basically blown away. They're like, wow, I paid $100 a night and look at the amazing property that I got. And he says, that's the time where I start getting a lot of reviews, a lot of 5-star reviews, 5-star reviews, 5-star reviews. I know because I know that during my high season, it's super hard to maintain a super good level of service. It's much harder. People paid much more, and therefore their perceived value, they're expecting much more. So just keep that in mind whenever your revenue manager recommends sometimes strategically reducing rates. It can actually bring you better reviews, something to keep in mind. And when something goes wrong, we always mention this, don't try to fight against the guests. I know that there's a lot of unfair guests out there, but your review score is more important than winning a fight with a guest over who's going to pay for the stain towels or for that flower pot that was broken, right? So don't sweat the small stuff, let it go, have some sort of self-insurance. That's something that we recommend. Damage waiver is something that allows you to not have to go after clients every time there's a little mishap. So guest reviews are important. Your listing is important. And again, I'm sorry if this sounds obvious, but you would be surprised how many of what the high percentage of listings on the OTAs are simply not good. And I'm not even going to go through this. Obviously, photos, super important. Your iPhone probably takes amazing pictures, but a professional photographer knows how to take them even better. The title, this is an interesting one. We have seen big differences between listings that have the right title and the wrong title. Wrong title, 2-bedroom condo in Miami. Well, it's obvious. I'm searching for Miami and I search for 2-bedroom condos. So you're not telling me anything new. The titles should mention what your guests are looking for, the main attributes, what makes you different. We use AI nowadays to upload all of the reviews that the clients leave us. And then we ask ChatGPT to say, well, based on what the clients are saying, what would you recommend the title be, right? And that's one of the tricks that we use in order to get better titles out there. And the same applies, well, booking.com, you can't really control the intro paragraph. You can control it on VRBO as well, on Verbo, as well as Airbnb, and just focus on, again, showing what makes your property unique, because that's what people read when they read, because most people don't even read this part. They just look at the pictures, but something very important to keep in mind. And also this is key. I mean, amenities are so important in good part because people apply filters based on this, based on this amenity. So if you have air conditioning and you don't have it checked, and someone says, I'm looking for a place with air conditioning, well, you're simply not going to show up. And you would be surprised how many times it happens. And we see this time and time again. Clients that tell me, you know what, our listings have all the amenities perfectly set, perfectly indicated. And sometimes like, wait, I see that in your picture you have ocean view, but you never clicked ocean view. And they probably didn't click Ocean View because Verbo just introduced Ocean View a couple of months ago, right? But they have to keep an eye on those things so that they do show up on the search results. Now this is just something, a little reminder for everybody. We all block properties because the owner wants to go, or because we have a maintenance block or whatnot. In our last meeting with Airbnb, they were telling us just how much inventory is lost to forgotten blocks that maybe you blocked 6 months ago or 5 months ago. So keep an eye on those blocks on a regular basis. Make sure that you're not missing out on a booking because you forgot to accidentally block or you forgot to remove a block. And point number 3, last but not least, master your pricing. Now, I'm sure that everybody on this call is already using dynamic pricing. That's a must for pretty much most markets. Maybe if you're in the ultra luxury market and you're renting properties for $25,000, $30,000 a day, then it doesn't make a difference, right? J-Lo will pay $50,000 a night, whatever she wants to go. She won't mind if it's $40,000 or $52,000 a night. So, but dynamic pricing is a must. As you know about dynamic pricing, it's having a different price every day according to supply and demand. But things go far beyond dynamic pricing. For dynamic pricing to work, you have to be very analytical in terms of how you set your base prices. So you have to take all of that into account. The most common errors that we see when people are determining their prices is assuming that the prices have to be higher than last year. Markets change, they go up and down. So if your ADR last year was $250, don't assume that $250 has to be your starting point this year. You have to study your market. Your guest ratings have a big impact on how much you can charge. If you have good guest ratings, for sure, you can start charging more. If for some reason you had a few bad reviews, your score went down to 4.5, you do have to sometimes sacrifice your price in order to get back up and get those listings and those bookings higher. And the worst part, of course, is basing your decisions on gut feeling. We see this time and time again, or what the owners say, right? That's usually the most common thing. The owner wants $300 a night and won't take anything less. And educating the owners that that's not the best way to go. Well, that's something that we all need to, we all struggle with, but it's time well invested. There's many other key pricing setups. I'm not going to go through them, but this is all just to say that when you think of pricing, don't just think about your rate. Sometimes, the minimum stays play as an important role as your rate does. Weekly discounts, monthly discounts, great opportunity to attract those individuals, those digital nomads, other individuals that want to stay at your property for a bit longer. So there's a lot of other setups that you have to look into. Don't forget about them. That's my key message to you. Don't forget about all of this other pricing setups. Okay. And the flexibility factor, right? This is another thing that we educate our clients on, that you have to price your property according to what the market pays. We love running this, and we have so many examples of the client that sells us, never rent my property for $250. Well, we ended up with a pretty low occupancy rate in the year. The one that says, listen, my cost for every night that is occupied is about $100. So just don't go under 125. We ended up renting that property on average for a lower price, but with a much higher occupancy rate. Result, the clients that are flexible end up producing much more revenue. So the key takeaway for all of you property managers out there is choose your clients right. It's much better sometimes to have an owner that gives you the flexibility, that allows you to make the changes that need to be made, rather than to be stuck with someone that is not flexible, that is stuck in their ways, and ultimately you won't be producing that much revenue from that particular property. And the last point I'd like to share with you is using data to guide your decisions. Don't forget Vrbo, Booking.com. They all provide us with some very cool metrics that tells us whether our listings are doing right or wrong. I love the ones from Airbnb because they provide you with how many times you're showing on the first page, what percentage of times people are clicking on your listing, and what is your conversion rate. The numbers that you have here on the screen are actually the averages that we've seen with our listings, with all the ones that we manage. So if you go on your numbers today and you see that you have more than 50% on your first page impressions, well done. If you are under that, there's room for improvement. This is not based on one or two properties. This is based on thousands of them. The search to listing conversions, how many percent of times people actually click on your property, should be around 20%. And you should have around a 2.5% search to booking conversion. Many of you already know this. You can find this numbers on the Insights tab on Airbnb, and Booking.com and Vrbo also have their own sections to gather this information.
So a question that came in around that, since you were on that page,
absolutely.
Is there any kind of data that shows what percentage of guests book on that first page and never go to the next page on their, on the display properties?
Question, Matt. I don't have that information handy right now. What I heard is that approximately 60% of people never make it past the first page, and therefore, they never consider that second or third page. And that's why this first indicator is so important. And that's something that, in our case, we do listing optimization. We keep a very close eye on these numbers, and especially on this other one, which is what percentage of people actually click. If we don't have a high enough click-through rate, is because either the picture is not right, or because the title is not right, or because, and if this number is low, it's probably because we don't have the right amenities, right? Or we don't have the right banner, like I was explaining on the guest favorite. So that's what makes the difference. What we do, I'm going to start sharing this screen. I'm going to share another one here with you. What we have done as a company, and I invite you all to do some type of report like this. Over time, we have built our own listing IQ report with using AI tools, where we evaluate every one of our listings based on whether they have the superhost or guest favorite badge. If we have it, we get a positive score. What about the title, right? This particular listing, the title was super bad. Central apartment in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Again, doesn't tell me anything. We evaluate things based on the description. We evaluate things based on the pictures and whether they have captions or not. So all of these things that I've been mentioning, I really invite you guys to do that in order to determine if you have a good listing or not, and of course your review score. So this is something that we internally do. We give a score to each one of the listings that we help manage so that we can tell whether what we need to improve or not improve. So it's something that we like doing.
Do you have someone on your team that's just focused on doing these for the, for the thousands of properties that you manage, or is it more of an AI driven thing?
No, we actually have two teams. We have the revenue management team that they're just numbers oriented, and we have the listing optimization team. They start with an AI report. AI, basically, we feed the AI, and AI tells them what they should be looking into. And then an individual, a real human, looks into that report and says, okay, this makes sense, because sometimes AI can tell you crazy stuff. This does make sense. This doesn't make sense. Let me go ahead and make the change. So that's where we think that a combination of AI and a real human, that makes a difference. But yes, Matt, to answer your question, we actually have a team of 12 people doing listing optimization.
Wow. Wow.
So,
Okay. So two questions that come from that is, what AI source do you like the best, or is there multiple? Like, is it chat or something else?
what we did in order for us to actually produce this listing IQ report, we programmed on ChatGPT, we programmed our own GPT. We fed it with all of the information from the thousands of listings that we've managed to say, this is what works, this is what doesn't, evaluate things this way. And I mean, it took us a while to tweak the prompt. But finally, we have now this type of report. We like ChatGPT. We've started using Gemini and Claude and a few others. So far, ChatGPT has worked well for us. Again, it's all also on how you configure the AI to actually provide you the right results. And like I said, always be careful, right? If AI is suggesting that my title shouldn't be this one, but should be this other one, in the case of the Puerto Rico listing, let me see what it saying. Does it make sense? It was suggesting that change central apartment in San Juan, Puerto Rico for walk to beach, dining and nightlife from secure spot. Okay, that could be right, or could be close to what it should be. So we have found it very useful, Matt, to use AI. It's a great tool, but we don't just copy and paste whatever the AI suggests, right?
Yeah, I know. You gotta be looking at it, because you're right. It does say some crazy things, and it even says that when you start using AI tools. So I like
Right.
that you build prompts, and then you kind of tell, okay, I want to build an insight IQ on listings based on this criteria, whatever that is for you in your market, right? And then
Absolutely.
you load like the listing details, the pictures, all that kind of stuff, into it, and say, okay, make this better based on what you kind of built already, correct?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right, Matt. And we say, look at a bunch of different things. Again, we fed it with all the knowledge that we have, and we say this is everything that we know works and everything that we know doesn't work. What do you recommend? And come up with this. And it's our guide. It's our technology that we built here. This is our starting point, and then we do the rest with humans and just with people that have the knowledge.
I love this. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, no problem. With pleasure. So again, I hope that this. I think we ran out of. I want to leave some time for questions. I hope you found this information useful. If you are ever interested, scan this code, get one of these listing IQ reports. We do them for free. You just send us an Airbnb link, and we get back to you with a listing IQ report telling you what is your score, how well are you doing, what are the areas of opportunity. I think it's a great guide. It's a great tool. And again, you're going to be getting all the smartness of the AI combined with all of the experience that we have gained over time, and it's free for you, and you can just have it there. So
I just scanned it. You're gonna hear from me.
awesome. That's great, Matt. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Eduardo. I learned a ton from this last 30, 40 minutes. We honestly answered a ton of questions along the way. So I don't know if we're going to have any last minute stuff, but Heidi can jump in if we do. What's the best way to get in touch with you, Angel Host, or however you want this to flow?
I think the best way to get in touch with us, either visit our page, myangelhost.com, or scanning this code, I think is the best way because, you know, you get some value for free. So I think that's probably the best way, Matt. We'll be delighted to provide this report to anyone and everyone. It takes about 2-3 days to get back the report because, again, we like to see it and analyze it before we hand it over to you. But it's proven to be an amazing tool for us. It has been a game changer, and I think AI is a fantastic tool. You just need to know how to use it and not abuse it also as well, you know, because I've seen people just taking copy paste of AI, and that's never
Scary.
good.
It's scary.
Exactly.
So when it comes to that the GPT part, the chat part, which is what you're talking about, that's what you have built out as a company and use that to help build your insights tool, right?
Exactly. So we connect through the API of OpenAI. We build our own GPT. That just eliminates the need to be constantly creating a new chat, you know, with ChatGPT. At first, you can do it that way, but then you want to do it in a more sophisticated way. And then we connect it to our own systems to build this full report that I was showing you.
Perfect.
Exactly.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome. Do we have any other questions from the crowd today?
Anything else that we haven't answered?
Don't be shy. Like we were saying, Matt and I were talking about this yesterday, and we're saying that the goal of this webinars is to try to communicate as much value as possible, right? And to give you guys some insights into how to improve your operations. So please don't be shy.
But you know, AI is everywhere right now, and who knows where this is going to take us. I love that you're using this tool in a creative way to impact your customers, and that you've allowed us to kind of plug into this chat GPT side by that scanning that code. So thank you so much. We're getting a lot of responses here that it just loved this this webinar. So it was awesome.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that you all taking the time to join us today. And if ever, you know, we'll meet at the next VRNation event. You guys still
Denver,
right?
Denver next April, last week in Denver. Put it on your calendar.
I'm gonna write it down for sure.
Okay.
Just
Thanks,
real quick,
thanks.
Eduardo, we do have a couple more questions.
Yeah, sure.
So we had someone ask, do you look at the listing metrics on this listing IQ report?
Yes. And in fact, we do. That's one of the things that we do. Let me actually pull it up again here on the screen. We do go, and you will notice that the listing IQ report, the first thing that we have is actually the impression rate, the click-through rate, and the conversion rate. For anybody who's requesting one of these free audits, because we don't have access to your account, these numbers will not be included because we don't have the right to access your account without your permission. It's something that if you give us like a co-host account or something, we can just go in and grab it for you. But you will get all the rest of the information. So we like to put these numbers on the top because obviously they're critical to know how you are and what needs to be improved. But all the rest of the numbers, you will get them in your report.
That's fantastic. We definitely got one more question with adding in 2-bedroom Maui in the listing title. Wouldn't that help SEO to have those in the title, or is it still better to not have that in the title? If we go back to that portion of your presentation.
Yeah, definitely better not to have it. It will help you SEO wise for your own direct booking website, right? If someone is trying to find your website in Maui, for sure you want to include that somewhere in there. But in terms of ranking on Airbnb, you have to think of SEO in a different way. And no, you really want to have on the title, or already Google and all the web crawlers know that you have a place, a 2-bedroom apartment or villa in Maui. That's a given. That's already mentioned there. So use the title in a way that attracts people's attention. If it's the ocean view, if it's the proximity to restaurants, if it's that it's family friendly, depending on what your guests appreciate the most, that's what should go in your title.
Differentiate. Absolutely. I love that approach.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about using Uber Suggest, could that help as well for SEO and keyword searching?
Everything helps for SEO, like your Google rankings, if someone is searching for your name, and your Google business reviews, everything helps. I won't tell you that I'm an SEO expert. I used to work a lot in SEO in my previous life. I do know that the more places where you're mentioned, the better it is. But in terms of ranking higher on Airbnb or Vrbo or Booking, that will certainly not have an effect on that.
Makes sense. Understood. Well, thanks for that, Eduardo. We did want to let everyone know that we will have a recording sent out to everyone who registered. If for some reason you weren't able to register, throw your email into chat. We'll make sure you get added to that list so that we share the recording with everybody.
Fantastic. All right. Well,
I think that's it. I think that's a wrap.
that's a
Thank you
wrap.
very much. This was fantastic.
Thank you, Matt. Really appreciate the invitation, and thank you everyone for joining us today. And like I said, I hope to meet all of you in person in Denver next year or before that.
Thanks, Eduardo.
All right.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
You too. Thank you, Heidi. Bye.